I'm going to get in the way back machine here a little bit. I don't know how many of you ever remember watching this old Harrison Ford movie from the 80s called Witness. The general gist of it is he's a cop who ends up hiding in Pennsylvania in an Amish community so that he won't be found. And so you have the hardened, streetwise cop, and he's learning the Amish ways, and there's a scene in it where they end up going into town. And there's Harrison Ford, and he's all dressed up, and they're looking totally Amish in the buggy. And there's these two townie guys that come out, and of course they're like perfect 80s, right? They got the hair in the middle, they got the mullet, they got the jeans, they got the shirt that has like a, that's skin tight and has a beer ad or something on it. I mean, these guys are just looking like I definitely did not want to study in history class. And they're coming up and they're looking at them, and they just start spewing this, just nasty stuff at them, just trying to irritate them, getting at them, calling them names. And the Amish guy does nothing in response. He turns the other cheek, is what he believes. But yet those two guys just keep going at him and keep going at him. And the way the scene is built is it doesn't take a few seconds till you really hate those two townie guys and you just want to see them. And then what ends up happening, Harrison Ford can't hold it in any longer, and the streetwise big city cop turns around and just clocks him. Now, I was told that back in the 80s, in that theater, when the guy got hit, the whole room clapped. And everyone cheered. But they missed the whole point. Then the Amish guy proceeds to lecture Harrison Ford that this is not our way. You do not understand. And yet there was something about that message being missed. That the point was not that we were supposed to take glee and delight in watching the person get hit. But that was our natural reaction because we aren't Amish. There was some sort of satisfaction to it, right? The guy got what he deserved. There was I call it a righteous glee maybe. And of course it's all about that passage there in Matthew 5. Turn the other cheek. And the Amish, they take this literally. They don't fight in wars. They don't get revenge. They don't use violence. Now there's an ethical debate. Do they benefit from the U.S. Army without participating in it? Those are rational arguments debated by philosophers and in books, but they all miss the point that I think the movie was trying to get at. We don't commit violence most of the time because of a cold calculation of cost and benefit, of necessity versus alternative scenarios. Most of us, we don't commit violence because we've run the numbers on it. We may say that, I guess sometimes it's true, but honestly, far more often, the motivation for violence is really deeply emotional. It's done because there's a psychological payoff. There's something, it satisfies pride and ego, reputation and status and power, and gives you that satisfaction of revenge. I mean, think about it. Those townie guys standing there making fun of the Amish guys, they're not just jerks, they're just downright bigots. And you're being called names, you're being ridiculed. Let's say there's people around you. They see you. They see you being made fun of and not doing anything. What does that do? How do you go in their opinion? Well, your opinion now goes down. You appear weak and impotent. People think less of you and respect you less. They might call you a wuss or various other names I can't use in a sermon. And you're feeling this big. It's the hardest hurt you can feel, to be publicly humiliated like that. So that retaliation, that fighting back, It isn't done because you honestly think that clocking that guy is going to cause him to change his worldview, and he will get up with his bloody mouth and go, you know, I realize I need to be a more loving and tolerant, open-minded person and respect diverse religious traditions. He ain't going to say that, right? The punch is not going to change his mind, but it will give an emotional response. And seeing them suffer fills you with glee. And those hurt feelings now get transformed. It's all about what's in the heart. So when we come to talk about violence and why do we do it, and why does it seem like the human problem that can never go away, and why Christianity is so full of people who engaged in all sorts of it, when you have Jesus right there saying don't do it, what's going on? Well, a little bit about turning the other cheek. This was one of those things growing up when I would hear it. I always thought turn the other cheek meant be a punching bag, be a doormat. You know, yes, you'll be humiliated, but you know what? That guy's going to burn in hell. But that's still sort of a certain satisfaction. It was kind of like in Gettysburg, where I went to seminary, there was this antique shop in a basement of one of those old row houses. And it used to be an apartment, so it had all these little walls. You could not see from the front of the register to the back. Impossible. And so what people would do is one person would come in, they'd come in twos or threes. One person would come in and grab some random object and haggle it. Oh, come on, this meat grinder isn't really from 1895. Meanwhile, the other people in the back just shoveling stuff into their bags to distract them. And so a pastor friend of mine there went and asked her and said, you know these people are robbing you blind when you do that. And she goes, that's okay. They're going to burn in hell. You may not be using violence, but you're getting every bit as much of the satisfaction and glee at their suffering. I'm not sure that's what Jesus meant, but I always thought that's what it meant, be a punching bag. But that isn't what Jesus is saying here. He isn't saying let them do anything they want to you. That's often how it gets spun by people who want to discredit what Jesus says. You know, they'll say, what? If I just sit there and let them do whatever they want, how's that going to stop evil in the world? How's that going to stop the problem of violence? That's only going to empower them. I can't imagine Jesus just wants you to surrender and let the bad guys win. And the answer is no, he doesn't. He wants you to respond without resisting. Resisting is putting up force, right? So when the Roman soldier comes by and he's got that backpack and he says, I want you to carry that backpack another mile. Again, they used to do that all the time. You know, if you were fighting back, you would tell that soldier to shove it. And then that soldier would take out his sword and that would be the end of you, right? But you could say to yourself, and your friends would look at you and go, at least I went down fighting. I wasn't a wuss, or other words that I cannot say in a sermon. We all know how the Roman soldier is going to respond, right? He's got the big sword, he's got the training, he's got lots of friends with swords. You aren't going to win that fight. You can't beat them with violence. So what Jesus is saying is take that pack and go twice as far with it and show him and everyone else how stupid the rule is and what a wuss that guy really is. Who's weak now? Who's the pushover now? It's the essence of a nonviolent response, or turning the other cheek, right? So what the soldier would do is he'd come up, he takes his hand, and he slaps you at the back of his hand. You can kind of imagine it like one of those French duels. Yeah, go miss, calculate my pack. Puh! And you'd hit him. And what do we do when they swing? We turn away, right? So it hits the cheek like this. When you turn the other cheek, you're facing him. So now when he slaps you, he gets a mouthful of teeth. Bam. Now, is that going to hurt your teeth? Absolutely. But does that show that you're not turning away and just being docile and submitting? You're not participating in the humiliation. And you're leaving him with a bloody hand. Yes, he'll probably get mad and take out his weapon, but he still looks like a weakling who can't keep his cool in the face of the guy that was supposed to just sit there and be made fun of. And everyone around gets to see that soldier gets played, and his honor goes down. That's how it works with Jesus' commands. He's not telling us to be doormats, and he's also not telling us to take up the sword. But I can hear the naysayers come in and go, yeah, well, you know, that may all be fine and dandy when you're a small little persecuted minority and you're vastly outnumbered. But if you're a nation, you can't do that. You let people invade you, they're going to invade you. You can't do clever hand-slapping things enough to stop the bombs. It's not realistic. Jesus, you're not being realistic. And with that one sentence, they've essentially said that the same Jesus who is a part of the creation of the universe, who is the one they call the Logos, wisdom and knowledge, is suddenly dangerously naive and uninformed and cannot be trusted. We write Jesus off so fast that his command gets thrown in the trash right there with loving your enemies, and the rich have already received their reward. Who are we to say we are more realistic than God? So, I go back to my favorite theologian, Dietrich Bonhoeffer here, right? He's the one inspiring this series, right? So what did he say about this? Well, here's a guy dealing with an actual empire, right? That used lots of violence. 1930s Germany. Did he say that Jesus was unrealistic and naive? Not really. Remember from before, this idea that we shouldn't let go of, that evil is always evil even when it's necessary. The lesser evil is still an evil. The necessary evil is still an evil. Having to do it because of outside circumstances doesn't make it right. And so the Christian should approach violence with a pit in the stomach and a certain feeling of guilt and lots of second guessing and trepidation and prayers, because we know we're violating a command that God literally gave on the mountain. Do not kill. He didn't say do not kill except if they're really bad. So here's how I see a Christian response to violence. 1, be aware of the psychological motivations for violence. We are not calculators. We don't act based on numbers. We act on feelings. And we need to reflect on ourselves and how we see violence. Do I cheer at it? Do I celebrate it? Do I dance up and down when my opponents suffer? Does it give me satisfaction? Because if it does, then I'm not painfully and hesitatingly making a necessary accommodation to circumstances. I'm satisfying myself. 2, don't celebrate violence like it was a good. Don't cheer the bombs dropping when they blow up. I remember high school in Gulf War I. It was the first war that was suddenly being broadcast live on TV. And I remember you would watch this and there'd be a bunker, right? And Saddam Hussein would have all these bunkers in Iraq, but they had to have an air vent somewhere. And we would find the air vent and drop that. You would watch the missile and it would hit that vent and boom, and they're like, yeah, got it. And no one ever stopped to say, boy, that really sucks for all those teenage boys that were drafted by Saddam Hussein at gunpoint and told to get into that bunker against their will or they'd be shot if they didn't defend a guy they hated. And we just blew them all up and cheered. Yeah, got him. There was something about the way those newscasters went that just seemed a little bit wrong. This isn't a video game here. Don't talk about it as if it were a good. There is a difference. There is a fundamental difference. 3, recognize the value of the person hurting you. This is really hard, but it makes a difference. When you see the one attacking you as somebody worthy of salvation, you're less likely to take glee in their demise. 4, use some imagination. When confronted with oppression or abuse or violence, do we even try to think of a nonviolent answer? I always wonder if we do that. Do we even give it a try? Maybe it isn't realistic, but did you try? Did you think about it? Did we stop for a second and get the board together and put our thinking caps on and go, all right, let's get out the whiteboard. How can we solve this without violence? Let's come up with 100 ways first. Do we even do that? I mean, we're human beings. We can come up with amazing things. We've figured out how to create gigantic warehouse-sized supercomputers down there in the Dells that can help college students cheat on their essays. And we can spend billions on it. We are so smart as people. We can get a bunch of MBAs in a room together and put all their brain power together to figure out how to put an Oreo cookie into a Reese's peanut butter cup and sell it to you and call it food. Can we not whiteboard away for nonviolence? Can we not sit down and pray that the Holy Spirit will give us that spiritual gift of wisdom? Sometimes I worry we don't even try. We just dismiss it. We dismiss the nonviolent options because they don't feel satisfying. If someone does something horrible and we resolve the problem without them being made to suffer, it feels like they got away with it. And that doesn't feel right. And if we want to be respected and viewed as powerful by those around us, we worry that nonviolence won't do that. It means we have to check things like pride. We have to think about that beef and the humiliation that we're feeling. This is one of those insights that I got from Bonhoeffer, where he talks about suffering and Jesus' suffering. And that Jesus' suffering is not a classical martyrdom. That Jesus' way is not go down in a blaze of glory. Jesus' way is to suffer with everyone hating you for doing it. And there's a huge difference there. Jesus could have gone down the martyr and the hero, and everyone would have patted him on the back and cheered. But he didn't, because he wouldn't use violence. He would not lead the rebellion against the enemy. He would not take up the sword. And for that, they hated him. He did not die a hero. He died despised. They felt like he betrayed them. But of course, he was absolutely right. There was no rebellion that was ever going to work. Rome had more troops than Israel had people. But it would have satisfied that need to go down in a blaze of glory. But in the cross of Christ, there is no glory. There's only humiliation. And who wants to be humiliated? No one. So we write off Jesus' command to turn the other cheek, and we make it one of those rules that we explain away right away, and we neuter it of its force so it can no longer be a burden because I don't want to be humiliated. When your enemy strikes you on the cheek, don't give them what they want, which is to respond with violence. That's taking the bait. They want you to pull the sword so they can cut you down. They want you to pull out the fist so they can strike you. By not taking the bait, you take the power away from the enemy. Jesus says to be the bigger party, the calmer party, the more loving party, the smarter party, the creative party, the Jesus party. Amen.